got some good news for renters. The month of May, saw asking rents across the country dip to around $633 average a week. That's down $27 from last year and the lowest since December 2023, and translates to about $1,400 less per renter over the past 12 months. Increasing supply is the main driver, with over 7,000 new listings last month. Wellington saw an 87% increase. Forecasts suggest this renter-friendly trend could stick around for a while, with predictions rent growth is likely to stay sluggish for the next 12 to 18 months. A few reasons: lower net migration, modest wage rises, and even as interest rates fall and property ownership becomes more attractive, rent rises may stay capped by landlords' ability to deduct mortgage interest rates, although we are starting to. Vanessa Williams is the spokesperson for realestate.co.nz and says the variation between regions is a reminder that national trends don't always tell the full story on the ground. And she joins me now. Vanessa, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Leah. Thank you very much for having me on this afternoon.
Lovely to talk to you. I had a look at the figures, and was it 15, I think, out of 19 regions saw rent falls. Were you surprised by how widespread the trend is?
I was surprised how widespread it was. Now, I wasn't surprised that it is dropping because, as you had previously mentioned, we all know the lovely laws of economics that when demand does fall and supply does rise, you see those prices drop back. But actually, I was really interested to see how many regions right across New Zealand it did drop in. And then the opposing piece to that is that the 3 or 4 that it did increase in, we had quite substantial increases too. So it was really a mixed bag out there.
Yeah, so let's look at that. Wellington, I think, and the Coromandel saw the sharpest drops. Any clues as to what's driving those areas specifically?
I think Wellington's had a bit of a tough time economically for the past sort of couple of years anyway. And look, I don't think that the rental market is immune to that, whether that be buying, selling. Even you look at the infrastructure challenges with the waterways down there, the political game has changed. So I think that that's just the Wellington market in itself. And then you go to the other end of the spectrum, which is Coromandel, more holiday makers, more people who are looking for a bit of sunshine, perhaps a bit of a short-term stay. And when you see the economy in the way that it is, people less surplus income, then you start to see those holiday destinations, while they are still very desirable, perhaps less practical for those who are challenged with the cost of living.
Yeah. I mean, we've got more rentals listed now, is it right, Vanessa, than in nearly 10 years? Like, what's triggered this flood of listings?
It's been a really interesting one. I think that, even looking at the migration numbers and Kiwis moving outside of New Zealand, we are still seeing that be quite, our typical renters, I'll call them, kind of that sub-25 age group has really picked up. And I think we're only really just realising the world after this lovely corona world that we lived in for sort of 3 or 4 years. So I think while it looks pretty scary for us with Kiwis leaving, actually we're just getting back to our normal lives and getting back to those lovely overseas experiences, which my own personal opinion is we should all have. Go and get all the lovely skills from outside of New Zealand and come back and bring them here. So that means that there are more Kiwis moving out. And then also, and again, I go back to this real challenge with the cost of living. You just see people bunking in more together, whether it's back with parents or perhaps rather than living on your own, you're going to live in with 4 or 5 people. So therefore, you're starting to cut those costs down in your living situation.
Are you seeing a shift with more landlords maybe wanting out?
I think, so the sentiment is that they want out. The challenge that they have is that had they have bought their property within the last 3 years, they're not going to realise any capital gains at all. In fact, it's gone backwards in that time. So while there is landlords who are really actually doing it quite tough in this market, because not only have interest rates been really high, they're potentially, if they purchased in the last 3 years, they're on a property that's negatively geared now because of the shift in the average asking prices dropping over the last couple of years. So there is a bit of turmoil in there, and I think there's quite a few people hanging on kind of for dear life, just hoping that we start to see a bit of freshen in property prices. Perhaps they can loosen up some of that stock and bring it back onto the market for perhaps our first home buyers.
Yeah. Do we normally see a little bit of a, right, we're going into winter, Vanessa, you'd know, I don't know, but when things do slow down in the markets, don't they? It's more when spring starts to pop up or come back. Is there a bit of a spring snap?
There certainly is. And do you know what? I was just at a real estate conference today, actually, and either people are there or they're in Europe or they're going to Europe,
I wish. You're moving great circles, Vanessa.
It's typical slowdown in winter. Everyone takes their family away to somewhere sunny. So, we do see that seasonality happen. And, it's just the reality of trying to sell your home over winter. Just it's a few more challenges. Like, it's not as light in the evenings when perhaps someone can see the property, or the spring blooms aren't quite out. So we do start to see, people put that sort of off for 3 or 4 but you know what I did? Someone actually did tell me today that we're only 8 weeks away from spring. And I was like, you know what? I can do that. 8 weeks is not far at all.
Is it? Oh, she's really looking ahead. I like that. Only 2 months and then we're in spring. Oh, thank goodness. Although I don't mind the winter months. In Auckland, it's wet and more than cold. But, I know I don't know where you're based, Vanessa. Where are you?
I'm in Auckland, actually, so it's a beautiful day here in Auckland today.
Isn't it?
Yeah, brisk but sunny, which is kind of my faves.
Hey, are there some regions, I don't know if you touched on it, that are kind of, the rents are still up there? Was there Otago, was Southland one of them, and Nelson? Are their rents still sitting quite high?
Yeah. So interestingly, South Island sort of took the cake there. Otago seems to have jumped the biggest jump, which is about 10.8% on the same time last year. So to give that a bit of context, around this time last year, it was about $631 on average to rent in Otago. So probably majority of that is made up from Dunedin. So about $631 this time last year and about $699 this year.
All right. And how long do you reckon renters can kind of expect this dip or the prices to stay, quite modest, I suppose you could call that modest?